now starts the proper presentation. Like I said, I'm Mike Mitchell. I'm the CTO for Cochrane Supply. I've been with them for 23 years. Kind of came from the IT industry. I used to work, in the 90s in a raised floor server room and working with old Prime mainframes and that kind of thing. Did some of the first client server implementations at the place I was at. And right around 2001, I started working with Cochrane, and I'd done a little consulting with them, and then they said, hey Mike, why don't you come on board? We got this new software called Tritium. We really think you'd like it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what the heck? Did it, and here I am 23 years later, and how many integrations and helping integrators and doing all, you name it. So that's me. Today, we're going to talk about three different kind of sessions. We're going to talk about TechXR. That's a software that we've developed at Cochrane Supply, and it uses the HoloLens 2 from Microsoft, and we're going to do some live demo with it and show you guys some stuff. Hopefully everything works, but we'll see. And then we've got a couple other presentations afterwards. I think we're going to have James do a accelerated engineering session, show you a lot of really great stuff about templates, some of the other more modern conveniences in Niagara to make your jobs go easier. And then I think we're going to have a little break. And then James is once again going to present on some HTML visualization. He's back there, so waving. Anyway, so that's what we got on deck. I'll switch over to my presentation now. Okay, and without further ado, so TechXR, it basically deals with augmented reality. This device is a Microsoft device, and it gives you this power, the ability to see digital information overlaid on the physical world. So anything from 3D models, BIM information, giant chiller plants, piping, you name it. And we've done a few things to add to that too and bind it up with Niagara. And there's a couple other things from Microsoft that also add to it too that we're going to be going over. All right, so that's the HoloLens 2. Here, put it on. It's a Windows 11 device, so it runs Windows 11 holographic. It's a little bit of a subset of Windows 11, but it basically gives you all the power that Windows 11 gives you too. It's a Microsoft operating system, so you can manage it with enterprise controls from MS 365, all that kind of stuff. So enterprise class customers usually like it. Cool. Let's see, and some of the development platforms that are usable on this and that we've used on it were Unity. We used the Unity software. It's kind of a gaming platform software, but it deals really well in 3D realm. And you can use that as a great platform to develop apps on. We did. Other things, like 3D Studio, Blender, anything that can get a 3D model, Revit, all that stuff. You can pull all those things out and be able to display them through this. And that key difference, one of the things that you can do, instead of wearing like an Oculus or the new Apple device where it kind of covers all of your vision, this is just like wearing sunglasses. So it's real easy to see you guys, and I'm not falling over myself, and in 20 minutes I'm not going to puke because I wore this stuff. So, the advantages. So it gives you that ability to visualize building control data. So when you need to see live data and information about your system and you want to be hands-free, say you're a technician and you're working on something, or you're in a data center and you want to walk up and down the aisles and see information about each server rack or anything like that, you can display it. BIM information, 3D models, like I said, all that stuff can be pulled into it. And we all do it via Niagara, so it's pretty nice. And also has the ability to remotely communicate. So you can do essentially a Teams meeting, and I'll cover that a little bit in a second, with remote people. So if you've got somebody at a site that, I've got a really tough question about this particular valve in the actuator, it's not doing what I expected to do. Let me call my expert. You start up an app, and you call that expert, and he can see through your eyes at what you're looking at, and actually even superimpose arrows, lines, circle things in front of you, and it'll appear right in front of your eyes, open up PDFs for you, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. And we're actually going to leverage that too today for a little bit of a live demo, and that's Abe Monreal. He's from the Dallas office, and he's going to he's going to help me today and demonstrate stuff. So let's see. This is handy too. Creating impactful education and training. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with this in terms of documenting your buildings or documenting your systems or certain control panels, or hey, the old guy knows we wired this panel differently than all the other ones. Let's document that and put it on that panel itself, so a new guy walking up to it will know that information right away. Or the new guy who doesn't know anything about this particular building, he can walk up, look at a QR code, get all sorts of information presented to him about that building. And just training itself too. Say you had a panel that you needed to build in a certain way, and you're going to crank out 100 of them. And you can build one guide that shows you how to wire that panel up, and then put the newbie on the wiring the panel, and he can go through and step through the guide, and it steps him through the wiring. That kind of thing. And that being said, for those two things, Remote Assist is the software that Microsoft makes. It's an app that pretty much comes with this. You got to do it like a monthly license to keep it going on it, but I think it's about $60, not too bad. And that gives you the remote Teams meetings ability. Guides, it's Dynamics 365 Guides is the proper name of it, and that's about the same price per month, but that's the one that you can use to author different walkthroughs and step-throughs or information about your building, and then that's all visible in the HoloLens. Okay, and then we made our app too. In our app, it'll talk to a Niagara station, and you can pull up data models and 3D models and panels of information, and also have hyperlink shortcuts on it too if you need to bring up a PDF or a link to another system. So say you've got a maintenance management system or something like that, technician can walk up to the air handlers and look at a QR code, get all the information live about it. He's got to do some service on it. You can open up the guide that tells him how to perform that service, and then last but not least, he opens up the internet shortcut that takes him to the maintenance software where you can record, hey, I did this and at this time and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. All right, a little bit of a further deep dive into some of these. That Remote Assist, like I was talking about. HoloLens 2 has been around for a couple years now, 2-3 years. They had a first version of it, a HoloLens 1. It was a little less horsepower to it and a little less oomph. This one's got a lot more oomph to it, and it has the ability to display better 3D models and run a little bit more robust apps, and that's one of them. So it's essentially, guys, it's a Teams meeting. You're just calling somebody, you're starting up that app, you call somebody, whoever that is. There can be more than one person in the Teams meeting, and they can all digest the information that you're trying to go over. And you can start other apps too while you're in that Teams meeting as well. All right, so that's Remote Assist. Guides, like I was saying, it's pretty neat. It starts off with a Microsoft app on your laptop where you kind of put together a series of steps, and you can do like different tasks, they call them, and then steps to those tasks, and then you can add video clips, PDF files, just straight images, and 3D objects to it as well. So you author it there first on your laptop, then you start up the HoloLens app for guides, and it also anchors to a QR code. So you might have a QR code sitting on a control panel somewhere. You look at that, and you then are able to see all that information that you laid out in that initial outline, and you author it first. So somebody with those privileges comes in and walks through each step, and then positions all the 3D objects, positions the videos, all that stuff, so that it's easy to use for the user. And then the operator comes in afterwards, and he's able to use the app, and it just walks them through stuff. It's also great. We're using it in a couple, we've done a lot of different things with it. Between documenting a building, if you've got a lot of information, that the old guys in the building know all the stuff about that building, and we installed this one weird, and this relay is kind of screwed up, and blah 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 blah, or whatever. You can put that into those guides and all those custom information, and then it's stored. And then the next person down the line using it can just walk up to the building and say, "Here's what system do I want to learn about? This." So it's nice. The other two things that we're working with too, flame safeguard testers. So at our branch offices, especially up north, we've got a lot more of those. You can put your boiler controller on a tester, and if it's having issues, you can walk through a series of steps and it tests out the controller for you. Well, some of our branch people are new and they're like, I don't know how to do this, and we've had old pieces of paper and stuff like that laying around where they have to kind of read this and figure out what they're doing. We got rid of that, and now we've got a guide made so they can just look at a QR code and it steps them through, here's how you test the flame safeguard controller. Also, we're working with Yaskawa, and they've got, like a drive startup or anything like that. We're building a guide for them as well. We're working with our local rep up there in Detroit. So, lots of cool stuff. And then, here's our app, that TechXR. It's pretty cool. It's a combination of two things. There's a HoloLens app that we wrote in Unity, and that reaches out and talks to whatever station that you guys want it to talk to. So if you've got 10,000 supervisors, whatever it is, you build that in, and it can talk to those. In the supervisor or J station itself, there's a service that runs, and that is used to basically define the data that you want to be able to see in here. Let's see, do I talk about that yet? Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk about it anyways. You basically define data models, and it's basically, okay, what's a VAV? What kind of points define a VAV? And you can find those points either by tags or names or BQL or equal queries, essentially is how we build that. Tried to make it pretty flexible. So you define that data model, and then you define a dynamic group, and that dynamic group is a group of 3D models and data panels and hyperlinks and the things that you want to show when somebody looks at a QR code that's tied to that particular device. So you build that in the service, and then you implement a couple objects in your devices. Like if you got 80 VAVs, you put a couple objects in those, and then each one of those has a particular QR code tagged to it by handle. And that's what we've got setting up here right now. It's really basic too. There's nothing too cybersecurity wise, you're not going to be able to get to anything with this. It's basically just a text QR. It has the name of the station, the handle of the object, pipe, and then the name of the station and whatever dynamic group you wanted to use to view it. Because we knew that, like if you're looking at, say, a chilled water system, there might be 3 or 4 different types of views you want to see. You could have one where it's a remote guy and he sees the whole entire chillers and the towers and the pumps and everything involved in it, and live, life size, and all the data panels around that shows them what the system's doing. You might have a guy on site that doesn't want all the 3D modeling, he just wants the data panels. So you build another group for that. You could have another guy that just wants to see it small. Just give me it all right here in front of me and I can really visualize it and see what's going on. And you could build one for that. So that's what the intent of those are. And then we also you can build, I mentioned here, different hyperlinks that you can build on each data panel. And it's essentially, it opens up a web browser. Right now, in the version that we have, it'll open up Edge, because this is a Microsoft device. And it'll open up that Edge browser and you can visualize whatever you want. Either stuff back on the Niagara station, so if you want to embed PDFs or even the Niagara pages themselves and do some control work from that, you can do that. Or stuff on the internet, as long as it's got connectivity. All right, so we'll try it. Okay, so here we go, guys. This is like I said, it's a Microsoft device, so I'm gonna power it up. And there's a bunch of different ways to log into it. But as it's Microsoft, it can do like a PIN. You can actually enter in a password and it'll show you a keyboard in front of you, or you can do iris recognition, which I did, and it just saw my eyeballs, knew it was me, and I'm logged in. And I'm going to hand that off to the gracious assistant, Abe. And he's going to put that on. And what he's going to do, he's going to start up that remote assist app. So that's going to essentially bring up Teams. He's going to be able to call himself. That's my account that he's logged in with. So he's going to call his laptop over there. We got the laptop plugged into HDMI. So he's going to call himself and then answer it on his laptop, and then you guys will be able to see what he's seeing. And then once we do that, and okay, got that working, he's going to start up the TechXR app, and then he'll be able to look at these QR codes and pull up information about them and the stuff that we have running. Yeah, so the station that we're talking to, because we're doing this as a demo here, so we're trying to figure out, okay, do we want to use like a TOSI box and some Wi-Fi access, or are we going to do something in the cloud or whatever? And this is just basically a cloud supervisor. The protocol it uses works over 443, and it is secure. It's basically a servlet. And the stuff that we chose to show out of the station, we've got a single heat pump here on this one, and that should just show basically a heat pump 3D object and one data panel, real simple. This one is actually a little more complicated. It's going to be a floor plan, a couple of heat pumps in the floor plan, data panels pointing to where the stats are, and the floor plan we actually made from Matterport. So, a Matterport is I don't know if you guys stay in an Airbnb or a VRBO, and you're shopping around for them. Some of them have that little walkthrough where you can walk through the house, or even real estate and stuff like that, where you're walking through the house and seeing stuff. Hey, Abe's up. Thanks, Joseph, for maximizing it. All right. Cool. So, Abe has called himself, and that's what you're seeing here. That's Teams running on his laptop. You'll also notice, I probably can't see it real well, but there's a bar at the top of it where it says Start Editing. So if you're the remote guy working on the laptop, that's where you can hit the controls to superimpose an arrow or circle things or bring up different documents to bring up, and it'll pop up right in front of them. So now, I believe, he's going to start up our TechXR app. And you can see what he's doing here. When you turn, it fully visualizes and articulates your hands in front of you too. It sees every joint, everything in it. And we kind of left that visualization too in the app because it's just cool. And so when you're looking at your hand palm this way, you can touch that window symbol that pops up, and that brings up the Windows menu, just like regular Windows 11 kind of stuff. And then you can start apps. So this is firing up. And while he's doing that, the Matterport stuff, so it's a Matterport that creates those other 3D models that you see in like those Airbnbs, et cetera. It's basically a device that has LiDAR on it and a camera, and you take it around and you move it about 6 to 8 feet every time throughout a room. So if we were scanning this room, it'd take about, 100 points that you step through the room, you got an app on your phone, you tell it to do a scan, you get out of the way so you're not in the picture. It rotates around on its own and scans that place. Cool. Hey Abe, do me a favor. Just hold out one hand in front of your eyes and turn your hand around on that. So you can kind of see how it maps his hand. You can see every joint is articulated in it too. So you can, wiggle your fingers. See how it sees all that stuff? So you can actually program against that too if you wanted to. So if there's particular things that you needed to do, you can have it do it on a gesture. Oh, and you can also see when he looks at his palm, we actually built some menuing into that as well. And you can see a bunch of buttons there on the sides. There's a bunch of things that we do with that. He was bringing up some debug panels that we have so that it'll show the loading of the models. That model cache is one of the debug panels so that when it's loading a 3D model, pulling it from the station and embedding it here on the HoloLens, it'll show that. And some models load faster than others. Matterport scans are really intense usually because they've got a lot of textures to them. Like, for example, if we were doing this room, it'd be about 200 scans, and that's 200 individual JPEGs that you got to download from the thing, and then it kind of transforms them so it can crunch them and use it. But Revit models and things like that, they're a lot simpler. Even though if there's a lot of polygons to them in that, it displays them pretty well. All right, without further ado, so that was a heat pump, a floor plan, a small air handler, and a life-size air handler. We'll go in order. Okay. Sure, we'll give it a shot. So lighting can affect this as well, so you gotta get fairly close to it. You'll see when it pops on them. You might have to do the reset QRs too, Abe. Oh, nope, it went. So you see it recognize the QR code. You saw that little box pop up. It's loading up a model, and there it is. Oh, yep, it did it already. He was looking at the debug thing, but there's the stuff that it popped up. So it's basically a data panel full of points that we've described to describe a heat pump. We've got a few hyperlinks on the side of it, and then that's that heat pump model. And I think we made that still adjustable. So if you want to grab the heat pump and move it around a bit. So you can see that when you're executing this and doing it in an actual job site, So you've got 1,000 VAVs that you're doing, and not every VAV that is going to have a QR code next to it. Some might have a column next to that QR code or the stat, and some might have this or that. So you've got to be able to move these things around and customize them, and that's how you do it. Oh yeah, and you can resize them. If you grab it with two, it's kind of like doing your fingers apart on a phone when you're zooming into something. Same thing there. Cool. Okay, so that's the real basic one. Abe, if you want to clear that, and then try the floor plan. So that's a button on there. It just basically resets the QRs. This one is a lot bigger. This is a Matterport scan. So this is going to load up some data panels. You see the arrows loaded in really quick. You don't see the floor plan yet because it's a monster model. And you can see Abe going over there. You can see all those textures loading in one at a time. There's 111 individual scans on that particular model. So that's what it's going through right now. And this floor plan happens to be a building. It's in a building in downtown Detroit. It's the 3rd floor of a particular building, and it's the house of the Urban Tech Exchange. It's basically like a little science lab for a bunch of different companies that work together to pool in and explore advanced technologies like this kind of stuff. Cisco, Bedrock, oh boy, Next Energy, couple others. You'll actually see it on the sign in the floor plan in a minute.
Code Labs.
Code Labs, of course. Yep. Okay. I think it's about to load. Any second now. There it is. So that's what that floor plan looks like. And Abe, just have fun with it. So he's kneeling down. We made the whole 3rd floor only about this big in front of you. So that's one style of looking at a floor plan. And you can see that's a Matterport scan. So it's got every single texture for that Matterport device detected, it displays. So you can see the little tables in there, everything, stat locations, it's all going to be very accurate. And it actually, when you do a Matterport scan as well, it's so accurate. One of the other downloads that you can get from them when you do one of these is an actual 2D floor plan that's to the 1/4 inch. So it's pretty cool. And again, you can resize these as well. We happen to do that one just this big, but you could have that floor plan life size, and it's like you're walking through the entire 3rd floor of that building if you needed to. If somebody needed to be familiar with a particular mechanical room or something like that. We've got one guy that is doing a bunch of Army Reserve bases, and he's already done Matterport scans of their mechanical rooms, and they're going to be using that. Cool. Alrighty, and then, so this one is a little air handler. Let's see if that pops in. Did it get it? Okay, great. So, and this one's just, I think we were working with U of D Mercy on this one. University of Detroit Mercy. They've got it's all Niagara in their entire campus, and one of the things that they had was I think a train built up air handler inside a building, and that's a little representation of it. And we added a couple sensors. Some of them are life-size because we were screwing around with it and having fun. But you see outdoor air sensors, some of the duct static pressure stuff and whatnot. See if you can get close to that small, oh yeah, Abe's moving the outdoor air sensor. And again, we made it so that you can move these objects around and kind of author it, and like if it's a life-size thing, you can put sensors where they actually go. If you've got a duct static sensor that's typically 2/3 down the duct, well, where is that exactly? Do I have to sit there and go up through 8 different ceiling tiles to get at this thing? Well, no, you can just look at it and see right where it is. And live data about it. Cool. Yep. And then there's that little 3D representation. I actually started that one with a Revit model. Revit, a lot of the manufacturers will give you good Revit models of all their devices and or equipment. Belimo's really good at it. Honeywell was also offered up a lot of good stuff. I've got some Belimo valves that are just perfecto. But for this one in particular, Train gave me the Revit model for it, but it was essentially a shell. Because a lot of times when you're just designing in a system like that, you just want to see, okay, how big is this thing, and how big is it going to be on my roof or in my room or what have you. And I basically designed all the other stuff that's on the inside of that.
Correct.
So, and again, those are all data panels, and it's pulling information from a Niagara station that we have right now. It's just running in the cloud for our intents and purposes. But it's a representation of what we actually have on site. Okay, and Abe, if you do the full-size air handler. So this is essentially the same air handler, just a different view on it. And this is something that you could do on site or not. And it should spawn some stuff over here. And with this one, we've actually added some of the ductwork as well. So same kind of thing, similar panels, similar information grouped however you want them. You can kind of see, you'll see a system panel there, a set points panel, duct static sensor. We usually put some smaller panels out by where the sensors actually are. Depends on what you want to do. You can have it all clumped together in one big panel, whatever floats your boat. And yeah, so that's an actual air handler sitting here. One thing I'll say too, when, this looks pretty cool on the video, but when you actually have this thing on, it takes it up a notch. So I invite all you guys, come on over to the booth and try it out. And we've got all these QR codes. We got a couple other things too. Some neat stuff we're doing with Tim Scott. Tim Scott of Ford Land. Yep, Ford's doing a proof of concept with us, and we're working on their Ford Experience Center, I believe is the building's called. Really gorgeous building in Detroit. And we picked out a few systems with them that we're going to flesh out. We did the chilled water system, their hot water system, picked one air handler, one section of floor plan, and the associated VAVs with that air handler. So with that...
Are you going to do lights too, maybe?
We can. Yeah, why not? Throw it in. The more the merrier, right? Yep. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward and easy to deploy too on the Niagara side. If I get time in this, I'll actually show you guys a little bit under the hood. If we don't get time, I might just postpone it till the end because I know we went about 20 minutes over with the other meetings. So maybe we'll steal a little from Stump the Chump and show some of that, but we'll see. But I got 2 more slides too, Joseph, I'll show, and then we'll be good with that. Sure. Yeah, I guess so. Why not? You guys get the gist. All right, so again, the under the hood part, the HoloLens 2 app itself, everything anchors off of these QR codes. So it's kind of like its link, the augmented reality link to actual reality, physical stuff. So when you move an object, when he was moving like the outdoor air sensor and that, it's an actual offset in XYZ from this QR code. So it'll go 1 meter over, 1 meter out, 1 meter up, or whatever it happens to be. So it stores that information back in the JACE. So the next person looking at it sees it where you left it. That being said, our first version of it too, we didn't have locks on things. So yeah, you can imagine. I was on stage showing some stuff, and you'd have that air handler laid out nicely on the thing, and then I just do this with my hand, and it sees it, and it thinks you grabbed it, and the air handler is now sitting on the ceiling. So not good. So we included now lock buttons on all those objects and all the data panels. So once you put them somewhere, you kind of lock them in place, and you're good. And you can also do that lock through the Niagara system as well, because it's storing all that information back there. You can even do custom adjustments in the Niagara app too, as well as for positioning or that. So you can just do it one way and all those things inherit it. If you got 1,000 VAVs, you want them all just a data panel right in front of it, you can do that. Or any exceptions that you make, when you move one little object in that, it writes it to that specific VAV. So you've got options with that. Smash it on all of them or just do it on a couple. Anyways, back to this. We also have, there's a service that runs in the Niagara station, and with that service, everything that you create in there and all those particular devices, it'll create a QR code for, and we've got a view on the service where you could say you want to print all these things out on stickers and put them somewhere, you can do that. People can even just bring up that sticker. You can put the QR code like in the graphic for the VAV or in something else, and then you can look at it on your phone with the HoloLens and it'll pop up from there. Lots of options with that. All right, cool. Yeah. And then the Niagara 4 module. So again, I was going to dive into some of this too, and I still can, but I think in the sake of brevity, I got about 2 minutes left. So I'll just kind of talk about it a little bit, maybe show you a couple things. And then later on, if we want to look at more, we can. Okay, two basic concepts with that I mentioned earlier, data models and then dynamic groups. The data model is just, it lives in the service itself. So you define, okay, here's what a chilled water system is going to have. And then you add points to that data model that says, okay, here's my chilled water supply temp. And how do you define it? You can either do it by tags, like haystack tags, or you can do it by names, and name equals whatever you have your chilled water supply temp named. So you do that first, and then you create a dynamic group in the service as well. You can kind of see it here. I don't know if it's very big, but you add this one. You can kind of see a floor plan. Heck, I'll just show you guys. So let's see. Oh, you know what? I think I got to open the browser. Yeah, cool. All right, so this is that station that's running in the cloud right now. And then here's the, like I said, this is a view on the service itself. So there's models and dynamic groups. Hopefully that's big enough. Oh, there you go. And then within each one of these, like for example, we'll take that heat pump, that small little one that we had up here. Here's the data model for it. So here's the point slots that we defined. So it's got these different points in it. And if you look at one of these, it's just looking for two tags, a TechXR equip tag and a TechXR enable tag. And we just used a custom dictionary, TechXR. You can use anything. But what doing that will do is when you put the objects in the actual heat pump, it'll scan everything from that point down and look for anything that matches this. And that little single on the end basically guarantees you're just going to get one result. So that's the data model and what that kind of looks like. And then under dynamic groups, that heat pump dynamic group we made, it's got a couple object definitions. It says, okay, what data model do you want to use for this dynamic group? And that's why this says heat pump. It's the same as that data model. And then inside that, you say what 3D models do you want, and then what panels do you want? And the 3D model we used is this particular file. That's contained in the file system of the supervisor. There's a little folder here called TechXR models. And you can look down here and there's a H2N4 UTX heat pump. Somewhere. Yep, there she is. So it's a zip file right now. It's actually and this might get a little technical, but hey, what the heck. So 3D models come in all sorts of different particular formats. And this one is an OBJ format. That's the one that we chose to use at first because that kind of worked well with Matterport. You can get an extraction of that from like 3D Studio or Blender pretty easy. And it just works. It's really, the zip file itself, well, this will be a good question. Nah. See if I can show you one of these. And the zip file itself basically has a .obj file in it, which is all the objects, and then I'll just talk about it. And then a series of JPEGs or PNGs, you can whatever it decides to use, and then a material file, a .mat file, and that's the thing that kind of links. Here's these 3D objects. Here's all these textures that I have in the JPEGs. Here's how to map them to those objects. So works pretty good. Like I said, Revit models and things like that are usually pretty small and they load in a jiffy, like from 2 seconds to 5 seconds tops. The HoloLens does cache them too, so even if you have a long loading model, you wait once, it takes about a minute if it's a Matterport file, and then you'll never have to wait that minute again. It takes a little while, but not anywhere as much as the first time. Cool. All right. So at that, like I said, I can go a little bit more with this. I think later on, if we get time, if we feel like it, if we got the time, I can go through, here's what it takes to add one of these things. We can do it live. But I think you guys get the point. So I'm going to segue off, and that's it for TechXR. Cool. All right. And then next on the agenda, James Johnson. And this is, I think, the first accelerated engineering. So lots of really good stuff.